morning, everybody. It's Tom Christie back in the Decoy carving shop, and this will be session 4 of carving Ruddy Duck Drake. And in this session, we'll get the body finished up, get the components assembled. And I think that's about as far as we'll get today. And then we'll finish the decoy up, get it floated and everything in the following session, which will be the final session. If you're enjoying my channel, please hit the subscribe button. That does help me out. It's free, and I'll keep it that way. But thanks for that support. Let's get going.
All right, now that the epoxy is cured, I'm going to use an old bit that's kind of gummed up from this type of work. And I have a few of these that I use when I'm working on this two-part epoxy because the epoxy has a tendency to gum up the burrs. So this is kind of a utility burr for me, and I'm just using that to carve off the remaining cedar and blend that into the body and make a nice blend between the surrounding areas and get rid of some of this epoxy. So I'm just running across the back of this, peeling off the epoxy, and then I want this to be a nice blend into the surrounding area so that this seam is not going to be evident when we're finished painting the decoy. And we'll do a little Bondo work to make sure that doesn't happen, but this helps blend the body to the tail and remove this excess cedar that we don't need. So I want a nice transition as the tail meets the body there. Do the same thing on the underside where this rump curves up to meet the underside of the tail. And do a little bit of shaping down here to get things cleaned up, get rid of the epoxy again. I like to let that epoxy cure overnight because it does set up a little harder given time, and that gums up this bit less than if you carve it while it's still fresh.
Now I want to do some layout work on the body to locate the side pockets. I put a little extension on here with tape because I actually made the draft 7/8 of an inch because this is going to be a solid body decoy. So it's going to float a little lower in the water because of its weight. So I'm going to start transferring dimensions onto the carving to identify how high the side pockets come up. And I'll do the same thing on both sides for symmetry. We'll also locate the cape here and get that penciled in, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got my layout work done from the side profile and then from the top down profile. And we want to remove wood in this area to form some nicely shaped side pockets and the scapulars where they come down to meet the side pockets.
All right, I'm going to run this at regular speed, and I'm using this 3/4 inch cylindrical saber-tooth burr, fine tooth, and I'm following my guidelines from the plan looking down on the bird and cutting out this material between the scapulars and the side pocket. And I'm also working to hit this line on the side with this bit. So once I get those once I hit those side profile and top down profile lines, then I can begin shaping the side pocket and have a pretty good feel that the dimensions are going to be correct. I'm also cutting in the cape here and putting a little bit of a V down the center of the back. A little more work to hit that side profile guideline. And now I can begin to round the side pocket. And I want this roundness to be a gentle curve, kind of from the center line of the side pocket up. So we don't want a big shelf up there. We want a nice, soft, rounded side pocket, like on the bird. I think this is an area where some beginning carvers are a little shy to do too much rounding, and it gives their bird kind of a blocky look because they just haven't taken off enough to generate a nice rounded profile from the front and back. I'm blending that area into the tail there. And now I want to cut in this lower side pocket area. I'm not going to go too deep here. I just want to give an indication of the structure of that side pocket as it wraps around under the belly there, and then round the back edge of the side pocket. You can see I'm working to get that nice rounded shape from the front. And you have to go back and forth on this until you get things cleaned up. Now I'll work on this other side, and I'm going to speed up the video here since this is kind of a repeat of what we did on the opposite side. This is at 2 times speed. I'll go ahead and show this. Sometimes repetition is helpful, especially to newer carvers. You can kind of see this side cut in. So you can see that cape is slightly raised and tucks over the scapular feathers of the back. So we want to leave that cape raised. That's another area I see judging competition sometimes, is people tend to really cut that cape down and make it concaved. And the way I see it on the bird is that cape tucks over the scapulars. So I like to leave it slightly raised. Cutting in that other side pocket. Before I finish rough carving, I just wanted to stop, take a few reference dimensions to make sure that the carving I'm doing matches up with the pattern. That looks good. The height of the side pocket there. Let's check the width between side pockets. It's pretty narrow back there. That's close enough. Check the width between the wings here. That's right on the money. So I'll do those kind of reference checks, and if I find anything off, I want to make the corrections now. I'm checking this height. That's right on the money. That looks good too. Okay, I'll finish up. I think I'm on track. Let's see, now I want to bevel the edges of the cape here so that they kind of blend in. We don't want to leave a hard ridge there. Clean up this center line to create a little shape in the back there. This is normal speed, by the way. We're back to normal speed. So I'm just going to continue to work the bird until I get things shaped up and this just takes time. And I won't show all of that video. I don't want to bore you, but I want to show you enough that you know this stuff takes time to really shape things up, get things symmetrical so there's nothing lopsided or awkward. Nice smooth lines throughout. It's an important part of conveying life in your carving to get this part right. Let me speed this up now. Okay, this is at 2 times speed, and I'm just going to finish cleaning things up before I start power sanding the bird. This area right up front here, kind of the shoulders or where the wings tuck into the front, a lot of beginning carvers leave big raised areas up there like the bird has muscles, and just another area to pay attention to. Those don't bulge out up there, they just kind of tuck in. I'm going to sand. Got stubby little primaries here, kind of tuck in right in this area before the tail lifts up. And I'm not going to carve a bunch of detail, I'm just going to kind of outline these around the feather group a little bit, so then when we go to paint, we know where those belong. That's about all the carving I'm going to do on this gunning style bird. Okay, I'm going to use this little cylindrical burr. It's about a 1/4 inch diameter, and I'm going to use the edge of that to go around the outline here and cut a little bit of a groove so that we can begin to separate these primaries from the surrounding area. Same thing here. And then I'm using the side of the burr to lower the surrounding area so that we leave those primaries bumped up just a little bit. No undercutting here, keep the bird strong, but just an indication where those primary feather groups tuck in back here. Gives it a little definition, doesn't take long to do. So I'm using the side of the burr now to lower that area between the primary groups and blend that in. And I'm rounding the edges of the primary group so that it's nice and soft, and we can do the rest with paint to define the individual feathers there. And while I have this burr, I'm just cleaning up a few things in this area where the rump and the tail coverts meet the tail. I've got a nail hole there I've got to fill. I'm using the end of the bit here because it has teeth on it too, like an end mill, just to remove material between those primary groups. There's that nail hole. I'll take care of that later with a little plastic wood. All right, I've got those pretty well shaped up. And then I'll shift to the sander and we'll get things smoothed out. And that's about all we're going to need back here, or that's all I'm going to need for this particular carving anyway. Just give you a quick look at that area in the light. Now I'm going to use a little Bondo and press it in the joint between the tail and the body here. Try to get a pretty smooth application. We're going to hide this joint between the cedar tail and the body. Same on the underside here. And the sides. So I've got to work fast before the Bondo sets up. So I'll come back and show you the result. Okay, I let the Bondo set up, and now I'm going to use a little cone-shaped burr and just lightly go over this Bondo and take off all of the ridges and any excess Bondo. Very light touch. I'm just trying to save myself some sanding time and smooth things out here. I will have to sand this because the burr leaves little scratches in the Bondo, but those are easily sanded out after we get it all shaped up. So I'm going to go around this entire joint with this cone-shaped burr. And this is an old burr. You can see it's kind of got junk in the burrs. And again, I use this burr for this type of work because the Bondo's not too bad. It doesn't junk up my burrs like the epoxy does, especially if you let it cure to where it's hard. If you try to work this when it's still soft, you'll probably get your burrs gummed up. Work the underside of the tail in the same way. Again, just a light touch rolling over it, and that's about all we need to take off the high spots and blend it into the surrounding wood. And then we can finish the job with sandpaper. All right, I've probably shown enough of that process. We'll jump ahead here. Now I'm going to take my sanding drum and finish the job here by going over the entire body and eliminating all the scratches from the burrs and do some final shaping of things, make sure everything is round and soft looking. And this will take some time, but I really like this little 1/2-inch drum for this purpose. It can get into areas like this, and it just saves a lot of time in hand sanding to kind of pre-finish everything with this 150 grit sanding drum. And it also helps me finalize the shapes. You can see I'm working on that transition area between the tail coverts and the upright tail and creating a real nice curvature there. And this will take some time, but I'll go over the entire decoy. Here's just another way to mount a head on a gunning bird instead of a dowel. I just drilled a 1/2-inch hole about to this depth, then drove a good heavy screw into the head. I'm going to put epoxy in the hole and on the neck joint and epoxy that screw right in place. A nice strong connection. All right, I let that epoxy joint set up overnight, and I'm going to get out my old crusty burr here again. And I did say crusty instead of trusty, but it's both. It's kind of gummed up, but it still works for this job. I'm just going to go around the neck joint and take off any epoxy that's squeezed out. And this 3/4 inch round nose burr is really good for this purpose because we want a nice curvature there and that nice hourglass shape between the head and the breast as the neck meets it. So I'll speed this up. Now I'm going to go around the entire perimeter like that. I can't get this burr in that back section, so I'll come back with a smaller burr to clean that up. All right, I'll put in this little cone-shaped burr and use that to get this area back here. Now I'm using the tip of the burr to cut a little groove because I want to create a little area for, I'm going to use plastic wood to hide this neck joint. And I want a little bit of a groove there so I can pack material in there and give it a place to hold. Okay. Now I'm just going around with acetone after I put the plastic wood in the neck joint in an old brush and just smoothing that out so I don't have to sand very much. Kind of shaping it up and blending it into the surrounding area. While that neck joint is drying, I want to do a little additional shaping up here on the head and create just a subtle indication of these horns up here. And I'm going to concave the center of the head just a bit to help develop those shapes. So when you look at the bird from the front and the back, a little bit of a concave in the crown here. And that helps form these two, I'll call them lobes of feathers on either side of the head. And I'll reiterate, this is a winter plumage bird. A lot of the reference photos that I'm looking at in winter plumage, you can't even see the horns up there. But I think it's characteristic, and I want to shape just a little bit of a horn up here to give the head a little more character. And I did see winter plumage birds with a little indication of that up here. And that's about all we need to do up here. It gives it a little additional shape. And I like the way that looks. You can see that concave area in the light here. And now I'm just working to round those, make sure they're symmetrical. And putting a little definition on the back of those lobes so they show up just a bit. And then I'll smooth this area back here. And there you can see in the light a little bit of definition, and that looks pretty good. A little concave there. All right, now I'm going to do some hand sanding as usual and smooth these areas out, get rid of all the grinding lines that remain, make sure there are no harsh shadows. I did use the belt sander to smooth the bottom of the bird, so it's ready to go. I let that plastic wood cure overnight so it sets up nice and hard, and then I'm just using a roll of Swiss sandpaper to go around the neck and smooth things out, make sure that joint is well hidden. Every once in a while I have to go back and reinforce. The plastic wood has a little tendency to shrink a bit as it cures, and that can expose a little bit of the neck joint. You may have to go back and do a little patch here and there. But this is looking pretty good. So I'll keep working that until it's nice and smooth. All right, I've got the brand heated up here, and I like to put a Maker's Mark brand on the bottom of my decoys. Sometimes the signatures fade over time, but the brand will always be there to help identify the maker of the bird. And it's always kind of a fun part of the process because it signifies I'm getting close to the end of the carving. And there we go, branded bird. I've got the keel shaped up and sanded. I just like to put a bevel on the edges of the keel in case it takes some impact. A sharp edge will really get damaged quicker than a rounded edge. And then I'm taking some 2-part epoxy and I'm going to coat the inside of the keel screw holes just to make sure they're sealed up and watertight. And the same thing with the anchor line hole.
All right, that's a wrap on session 4 of carving the Ruddy Duck Drake decoy. And in the next final session, we'll get everything sealed up. We'll get flotation done, get the bird primed and ready for paint. Until then, Tom Christie signing out. Good carving to you. Have fun out there.